It's daybreak here on Arise News. Time for the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages just as they arrive. Let's take a look at this day newspaper. It says Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun, Abdulrazaq, Sule, Inuwa, Matawalle, others secure APC Guber tickets. We'll look at that in a little bit. The writer says protests greet outcome of gubernatorial primaries in some states. Just below that, delegates list court stops INEC from recognizing Obaseki's faction. More on that on page 5. Finance Minister says Nigeria's low crude oil production barely enough to cover petrol imports. And just above the nameplate of this day this morning, Buhari talks free polls. Former President Jonathan attacks National Assembly, faults Section 84 of new Electoral Act. Let's take some riders. Declares lawmakers legislating to target particular persons and groups and insists quality of delegates disgraceful, monetization of process unacceptable. You can read that on page 5.
Oh, well, the Punch newspaper is leading with governorship primaries. Fresh crisis hits APC. Factions boycott polls, threatening suit. The PDP gets parallel governorship candidates in the southwest Oku. In Kano, in Akwa Ibom State, President Muhammad Buhari attends the Africa Union Summit in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. And at the top, Tinubu, Kwankwaso, Ekweremadu may lead regional parties.
All right, let's look at The Nation. The Nation has on its front page headline, how Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun, Abdulrazaq won tickets with about 2 riders there. Clean sweep for governors. APC holds governorship primary. INEC, only results of monitored polls acceptable. Then, of course, just down there you see the winners, itemized. Let's look at some other issues there. It says Sultan, fish out and prosecute unknown gunmen. Then you get to, I didn't abandon, that's at the top mast. I didn't abandon youth service. Odua insists, this is on page 3. There's this back and forth between NYSC and Stella Odua. Primary is monetized, a mess, says Jonathan. You can get that on page 5. The Odua story on page 3. And that's about it for The Nation. We'll go to some other papers.
The Guardian newspaper this morning, some also political stories. 48 hours to APC presidential primary, another shift likely over absence of screening convention committee. Some riders, stakeholders decry the law in convention activities as Buhari departs for AU summit after meeting with Osinbajo. And just below that, Abuja stands still for APC PDP conventions. It says, read the big story on pages 5 and 6. Below that, Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun Zulum, others pick APC second term ticket. And APC disqualifies Benue, Abia, Cross River reps as aspirants as Buhari commits to fair, peaceful polls.
International papers, The Independent, Goodfellas star Ray Liotta dies at 67.
All right, that's still on the international papers. Let's get to see every home to get £400 cut in energy bills. They'll probably be celebrating that. That's for
Okay, so let's take a look at some of the stories making the headlines on the national dailies today. Before we start with this day, there's a story. It says it's a big story on The Guardian, as it says Abuja stands still for APC PDP conventions. We know that the convention's starting with PDP tomorrow, and Abuja is really buzzing in with delegates trooping into the city, the MKO Abiola Stadium, where the PDP will have their presidential primaries, is wearing a new face. They've decorated the place, there's security there. Meanwhile, Eagle Square, where the APC will have theirs beginning on the 29th, is dull. There's a few security there, but seems like nothing is happening. And So this weekend, going into next week, also the NNPP will have their own presidential primaries. It's quite full. All the hotels are booked, and there's been a top-notch security all around Abuja. I don't know if you have noticed, and coming into work this morning. And this day newspaper, leading with the APC governorship primaries, you have some winners there, and most of the governors who had their first term clinched the ticket to be the candidates for the APC after their governorship primary elections, which was marred with some protests. Some people are pulling out, but it didn't stop them from declaring the winners. You have Sanwo-Olu, who's coming back, Abiodun for Ogun State, Matawalle. Any of you, Kenneth and Indy, did any of the primaries surprise you in any of the states from what you've observed?
Like I said earlier on behind the scene, all the governors are returning. Is expected. I mean, the power of incumbency. So all of them are returning. But one thing stands out, and that's the fact that in both parties there are protests. There are, PDP, what you have are withdrawals. In APC, what you're having are protests after the fact. In Rivers, Magnus Abe, last time out, it was the same thing between him and Cole. This time around, the same thing. But he looks like he's saying he's going to run under another party. He'll be in the poll. So what you're having in the APC is protest, which seems in a way to confirm or give credence to what the former president is saying. I'm talking about Jonathan, who says the entire process of primaries is a charade, is a mess, and is against the Electoral Act of 84, 84, which is in court, by the way. He's saying it's a mess because of monetization, because according to him, the people who are selecting the delegates do not seem to know what they're doing. But that is Jonathan's statement. I mean, that's what he's saying. But what is on ground now seems in a way to kind of justify, if you like, what the former president is saying.
And yesterday, Kenneth, the INEC boss also mentioned the monetization of the primaries going on across the country and saying that Nigeria is looking to go into plutocracy. Kenneth, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, we've heard of some aspirants retrieving monies, and I'm looking forward to all the court cases that will come out of
one of the states, Western states.
It's expected.
Somebody gave, oh my boy, I don't know. Somebody gave a boss to the party, and he had to take it back. Because he lost, yes.
I mean, it only makes sense. If you pay, you don't get what you...
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. You're not supposed to pay. You're not supposed to induce.
I mean, if you're really giving the party a boss from your heart, why should you go take it back?
Exactly.
If he didn't get the ticket, he can take his money or whatever he gave back. I'm looking forward to all the court cases. If you don't have a friend who's a lawyer now, you can stick to them because they will be balling shortly. But back to what the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, has said, it's condemnable that we're having to pay our way to political positions. It just tells you that people are not going there to lead.
When
they're
that's
just
a
going to make some money.
statement, if you ask them, they're saying, I don't know who it was that spoke and said, come and prove it. If there are people paying people, come and prove it. I mean, these are the two sides. I mean, that's Jonathan's comment. But if you're saying that people are paying the delegates, come and prove it. And that makes a lot of sense, because you really have to have your fact on ground to say that they're paying delegates.
Yeah, of course.
But there are rumors that people are paying delegates.
There's rumors.
Yes, and there are some pictures online as well, and videos that are going viral online about all these payments. And for the INEC boss to speak on it, it means it's happening, or something of that nature is happening. And that's why the former president, Jonathan, is now calling on the National Assembly to look into criminalizing inducements of delegates, because really, if you're dosing out cash and buses and whatnot to get votes, you're not really going there for the right reasons.
You raised one issue, which is the fact that I think the Abiola Stadium for the PDP.
Yes.
Oh, it's time to go. We can't, because the APC, the Eagle Square, is not wearing any look, and you're wondering what is happening. And it's on. All right, it's time to go.